Once upon a time, the devil made a strange mirror. This mirror was not normal, everything beautiful looked ugly in it, lovely flowers looked dry and dead, and even the prettiest girls looked horrible. The devil enjoyed watching the world look terrible through this mirror. It made him laugh. One day, the devil wondered, what will happen if I hold this mirror in front of God? So he flew up toward the sky, but as he went higher and higher, suddenly the mirror shattered with a loud crash. The mirror broke into 1,000 tiny pieces. The sharp pieces fell from the sky onto the earth. Some pieces fell into people's hearts, making them unable to see anything good. Others got into their eyes, making the world look ugly to them. Their hearts became empty, without love or kindness. In a small town, there lived a boy named 𝘓𝘓 and a girl named 𝘓𝘓. They were neighbors and best friends. Both of them had small rooftop gardens where they planted roses. They always played, drew pictures, and spent happy times together. One day, 𝘓𝘓 and 𝘓𝘓 were reading a storybook and looking at its pictures. Suddenly, the church tower clock struck 5 times. 𝘓𝘓 looked up at the sky and said, 𝘓𝘓, look! Bright little particles are falling from the sky. Before he could finish speaking, 𝘓𝘓 cried out in pain, ah! Something sharp went into my eye. And my heart. 𝘓𝘓 became frightened and asked, 𝘓𝘓, what happened? Are you okay? But 𝘓𝘓 had changed. He rubbed his eyes and said coldly, why are you so noisy? Be quiet. Then he stood up and began pulling out their beautiful roses. 𝘓𝘓 asked softly, why are you doing that? 𝘓𝘓 replied, these flowers are full of insects. Then he walked home and slammed the door shut. From that day on, 𝘓𝘓 stopped playing with 𝘓𝘓. Winter arrived. One day, 𝘓𝘓 was sledding alone when a beautiful woman appeared. She wore a white, shining cloak. When she saw 𝘓𝘓, she smiled. This woman was the Snow Queen. 𝘓𝘓 tied his little sled to her grand white sleigh, which was pulled by a huge horse. The horse ran so fast that the city disappeared behind them in seconds. 𝘓𝘓 grew terrified, so the Snow Queen lifted him into her own sleigh. Then they flew together high into the sky. When 𝘓𝘓 did not return home, 𝘓𝘓 became extremely worried. She searched everywhere in the city. At last, she met a man who said, I saw the boy. He left the city with a lady in a white cloak on a big sleigh. Maybe he fell into the river. 𝘓𝘓 ran to the river. She took off her shoes, threw them into the water, and said, River, I will give you my shoes. Please bring 𝘓𝘓 back to me. But each time she threw them in, the shoes floated back to her. So 𝘓𝘓 stepped into a small boat and asked the river to carry her to 𝘓𝘓. The water carried her slowly to a strange place, the palace of an old witch. The witch smiled kindly and said, what a beautiful girl. Why have you come here? She pulled the boat to the shore with her curved staff and helped 𝘓𝘓 out. 𝘓𝘓 told her everything, how 𝘓𝘓 had left and how she wanted to save him. The witch said, the boy has gone to the north. But you are tired. Rest in my house first. The old woman welcomed 𝘓𝘓 warmly, then she gently combed 𝘓𝘓's hair, but the comb was magical. The witch was lonely, and when she saw 𝘓𝘓, she thought, how wonderful it would be if she stayed with me forever. With the magic comb, she bewitched 𝘓𝘓. 𝘓𝘓 slowly forgot 𝘓𝘓, and began a new life with the old woman. One day, 𝘓𝘓 was playing in the garden among the roses. Suddenly, a sharp thorn pricked her finger. At that moment, all her forgotten memories came rushing back. She gasped and said, this is the same rose 𝘓𝘓 and I planted together. I must go find him. Without wasting a single moment, 𝘓𝘓 ran away from the witch's house and hurried toward the north. As she walked, the air became colder and the wind blew harder. Soft snowflakes fell slowly from the sky and covered the road. 𝘓𝘓 was shivering, but she did not stop. A crow sat on a tree nearby, cawing loudly. 𝘓𝘓 looked up and asked, Mr. Crow, have you seen 𝘓𝘓? The crow replied, a princess has just married a boy who came from the south. He is now the prince of this land. Maybe he is the boy you are searching for. 𝘓𝘓 said quickly, Mr. Crow, please take me to the prince's palace. The crow nodded, my friend has a nest in the palace yard. He can help us. They flew and walked together until they reached the palace. The crow's friend led 𝘓𝘓 to the princess's room. 𝘓𝘓 knocked on the door excitedly and called, 𝘓𝘓. 𝘓𝘓. The door opened, but the boy standing there was not Kai. Greta's smile faded, she felt disappointed and sad. She apologized and told the whole story to the prince and princess. They listened with kindness in their eyes. The princess said, "Poor child. You are very brave." They gave her a large golden sleigh, a beautiful horse, warm clothes, and plenty of food to continue her journey. Greta thanked them and the helpful crows with all her heart. The prince said, "I'm sure you will find your friend. Take care of yourself." Greta waved goodbye and started her journey again. Her sleigh rushed quickly toward the north. After many hours, she reached a dark forest. Just as the sleigh driver entered the forest, a group of thieves surrounded them. They held sharp swords and daggers. One thief stepped forward and said, "Capture the girl." But before they could touch Greta, the chief's daughter pushed through the crowd and shouted, "Wait! She is mine. Take her to my room." Greta, frightened and trembling, followed her, but when she entered the girl's room, she gasped in surprise, "Wow! So many pigeons! And what a beautiful deer!" She said. The girl had hundreds of pigeons fluttering around, and a gentle reindeer stood beside her. The girl seemed happy to have a visitor. She roasted food over the fire and welcomed Greta kindly. As they warmed their hands near the flames, Greta told her entire story. The girl listened with wide eyes and said, "What a sad story." One of the pigeons cooed and said, "Kai has gone to the northern land with the Snow Queen." The reindeer added, "Yes. The Snow Queen's palace is far, far in the north." The chief's daughter turned to the reindeer and ordered, "Take Greta to the north." The reindeer bowed his head in agreement. He carried Greta through freezing winds without stopping. Whenever Greta felt hungry, she ate the food the chief's daughter had packed for her. But the journey was long, and soon Greta had nothing left to eat. Still, she did not give up. She endured hunger, cold, and tiredness because she had to find Kai. She traveled and traveled until she finally reached the far north. The reindeer stopped and made Greta stand in front of a small hole. An old woman slowly came out of a hut. The kind old woman welcomed Greta and the reindeer into her little hut. After listening to Greta's story, she said softly, "The Snow Queen's palace is in Finland. I will write a letter to my friend who lives there. Give her this letter when you arrive, and she will help you." Greta thanked her. Then she climbed back onto the reindeer, and they hurried toward Finland. When they reached the snowy land, Greta gave the letter to the old woman's friend and said, "Please give me the strength to save Kai." The woman smiled gently and replied, "You already have the strength. Your love and courage are powerful enough to save him. I can only show you the way to the ice palace." She pointed toward the endless white horizon. Greta held the reindeer tightly, and they rushed forward. They finally reached the gates of the ice palace when suddenly, a huge snow monster rose out of the ground. It let out a terrifying roar and charged at Greta. The Snow Queen's army had come to stop her. Greta felt fear, pain, and freezing cold. She clasped her hands and cried, "God, please help me." Her breath was so cold that she could see it turning white in the air. But then something magical happened. From Greta's warm breath, hundreds of tiny golden angels appeared. They flew around her like sparks of sunlight. The angels attacked the snow monster with their shining swords and protected Greta. They defeated the monster and gently warmed her frozen body until she felt strong enough to move again. At last, Greta reached the Snow Queen's palace. It sparkled like a giant diamond under the sun, but because it was made of snow and ice, the air inside was painfully cold. Greta ran inside. Her heart stopped when she saw Kai sitting there, still, pale, and cold as ice. She cried out, "Kai." But Kai didn't answer. His face looked frozen, and his eyes were empty. Greta knelt beside him and sobbed, "Kai. Why don't you know me?" Her warm tears fell onto Kai's chest. Suddenly, the tiny piece of the devil's mirror that was stuck in Kai's heart slowly pushed itself out and melted away. Kai gasped, his eyes opened wider, "Greta." He whispered with tears. As he cried, another piece of the mirror came out from his eye. Greta hugged him tightly. Both of them cried, and their tears were so warm and full of love that the ice palace around them slowly began to melt. Greta said, "Kai, let's go home." They held hands and ran toward the exit, but suddenly the Snow Queen appeared. Her voice was cold and sharp, "Kai, I will not let you leave. Greta stood bravely and began to pray, "God, please help us." With her prayer, the palace melted even faster. The Snow Queen realized she had lost. She lowered her head and said sadly, "Goodbye." Then she flew upward into the sky and disappeared into the sunlight. Greta turned to Kai, smiling through tears, and said, "Come on, Kai. Let's go home and plant roses again."